wish... There it is. Alright. Jesus, oh God. Am I like completely off center? Do we really care? Hi guys! So today I'm going to be talking about the basics of looking at a birth chart. So the reason that I'm filming this video is because last week I posted a video, Love in the Birth Chart, and a lot of you, or a few of you at least, asked me some questions about like, what is a house, like what really is a birth chart. So I figured, I don't think I've really done this on my channel before, which is kind of surprising. So I figured I would film this for those of you that maybe look at a birth chart and you're like, what is this? What are these symbols? Why is it in this circular format? Like, what am I looking at? And trust me, like, we've all been there at some point. I remember learning it a while ago and I was just like, wow, this looks like a completely, you know, foreign language to me. But, you know, with a little time and knowing what you're looking at becomes much more clear, and it's a lot easier once you know, some of the basics of what you're looking for. So here's what a birth chart is. Basically, at the exact time and place of your birth, it is what all of the planets were doing, where they were, and how the sky kind of looked or was at the time of your birth. A lot of you probably know about your sun sign, but that's just a part of it. So in Western astrology, the birth chart is in a circular shape. There are other forms of astrology out there, and there's some birth charts that are like square shapes, but I don't study that. I study Western astrology, so I'm going to show you what I know. So we're going to be looking at an example of like a perfect birth chart, but I will also insert a picture maybe of my birth chart just to kind of show you that they can all look different. Each birth chart is broken up into 12 houses, and the first house is always in the same place, and then it goes house 1, house 2, house 3, house 4, house 5, house 6, house 7, house 8, house 9, house 10, house 11, and house 12. So you may have something in every one of those houses, or you may have houses that are completely empty. It's all dependent on your birth chart. Every birth chart is unique. So once you break it up into houses, the next thing you can look at is the planets. Now these planets are in glyphs and you have to just kind of memorize which one means what. So you're going to have your sun, your moon, your Mercury, your Mars, your Venus, your Uranus, your Neptune, your Pluto, and your Saturn. And Jupiter. A little out of order, but those are the planets that you're going to be looking for in your chart. There are other things you can look in for your chart, but for the purposes of this being kind of like a beginner's video, I'm just going to go over the 9 planets. And I know Pluto isn't technically a planet, but whatever. It still counts here. So, once you find those planets, you can kind of look next to them or to the side of them and see which sign the planet is in. So for instance, my sun is in Capricorn, and here's what that looks like. Now you can see my moon is also in Capricorn, and then I will also show you my Mercury, which is in Aquarius. So you can see that right lined up with each other, you can see which planets are in which signs. So now you know that. So you know that the birth chart is broken up into 12 houses. It's broken up, for basics for today, into 9 planets, and then each planet is in a sign. When somebody says that they have their sun in the first house in Capricorn, now you can kind of know what that means. Your sun can be in any of the houses, 1 through 12, and that goes for every planet. Sometimes people have a lot of activity in just one house, like myself. I have a ton of activity going on in my first house, and then like my 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th houses are all completely empty of, any planets being in there. I'm definitely going to continue to make videos about this and go over a lot more in-depth stuff. I think it would be a really good thing to have on my channel for those of you who want to know more in-depth astrology. Okay, so you have all of these things. Now the next thing you're going to look at is the degree that each sign is in. So if you're wondering what those numbers are next to each planet between the planet and the sign, that is the degree that the sign is in. Now the degree is important, and some numbers, are more significant than others, and that I will save as well for a future video. Another thing that you can look at is which sign is ruling each house for you. Now, typically people look at the first house. If you were going to do a very basic birth chart based at Aries 0 degrees, you would look at the first house as being in Aries. But that's not the case with everybody's house. So my first house is in Capricorn. My second house, therefore, is in Aquarius, my third in Pisces, and so on and so forth. So if your first house was in Scorpio, your second house would be in Sagittarius, your third in Capricorn. Each of the houses is significant of different things. So, for example, Your first house might be in Capricorn, but the first house is still all about stuff that is kind of associated with Aries. So it's kind of about yourself, me, your appearance to the outside world. The second house is kind of associated typically with Taurus, but it's about possessions, materials, and a lot more than that. And again, I'm going to be doing some house videos soon, which I also haven't done on this channel. I am going to go over one other part of the birth chart, just so when you look at it, you kind of have like somewhat of an understanding of what you're looking at. So a lot of times you'll see these lines in the very middle of your birth chart, and you're like, what are those? What are those called? Why are those there? Those are aspects. So basically, between, most of the planets, there'll be different aspects. Some aspects names are like opposition, conjunction, square, trine, and those all mean different things. So for example, your moon might be trining your Venus. That is a positive thing because a trine, is a good aspect. Your Venus may be squaring your Mars. Now, a square is more of a challenging aspect. So there's all different kinds of aspects, and when you see those lines, between the signs of your birth chart, that is what that is, and that's what that's showing you. That is pretty much the basics of a birth chart. I know this is very general, but if you're a beginner to this, or you've never really looked at a birth chart, without reading the descriptions below, now you kind of have a little bit of knowledge of what you're looking at, so that if somebody shows you your birth chart or you look it up online, you don't really have to immediately scroll down and see, the written text. You can look at the birth chart and be like, okay, I kind of have an idea of what I'm looking at here, and with some time, I can, figure out more. If you have specific requests for what you want to see in videos having to do with your birth chart, make sure to leave them down below so that I know. I want to do some videos, maybe next up I'll talk about houses. But yeah, let me know down below. I can talk about like the North Node, South Node, Chiron, stuff like that. And yeah, I will see you in my next video. Until then, have a good day or night.